Welcome to the Green Local School District Board of Education meeting for September. Mrs. Snowberger, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Campbell,
Here?
Mr. Herdlick,
Here.
Mr. Cohen,
Here.
Mrs. Vanelli,
Here.
Mrs. Stoynoff.
Here.
Would you all, before we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I would just like to pass on our condolences for the three families in Green in the last couple of weeks who've lost loved ones, both fathers and as well as children. It's certainly a horrible time to lose someone in your family, especially when it's someone that's such a big part of the Green family and the Green community. So if we could, when we stand, just have a moment of silence, and then we'll start that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance with honors and recognition. Mr. Miller.
All right, at this point, I would like Mr. Shank to please come forward for our Greenwood Student of the Month.
I told her I will promise you don't have to say anything, just stand up there and look pretty. And it's not very hard with this face.
Very pretty.
All right, tonight I would like to introduce, her name is Pirsa Jokovic, and her mom and dad are in attendance, and her little brother, Daniela, Dijon, and Jovan. All right, I already apologized for their names. I knew that was going to be a little bit difficult. Things that she likes to do, she likes to play with family, she likes to swim, and she likes to dance folklore. And it's a traditional Serbian dance. Her birthday is July 15th, and again, she's 5 years old. Her favorite color is rainbow because she could not pick what color is her favorite. Her favorite food, goldfish. You would love my car because I know I have a lot of goldfish. Favorite game and sport is soccer. And her favorite thing about school is Miss Gearhart, her teacher. She feels that she is special because she was born before her brother. That makes you special, being an older sister. And when she grows up, she wants to be just like her dad. She wants to work at Sears and be a manager. All right, if you could please put your hands together for Pearson.
All right, congratulations. Another round of applause, please. And at this time, can I please have Ms. Foltz please come forward for Green Primary School Student of the Month?
Good evening, everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing Ms. Zuri Lester. And one of the things I want to mention, is this on? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. One of the things I want to mention is that probably my favorite thing about Zuri is that when she walks through the hallways, when you see her in the cafeteria, when you see her on the playground, this little girl always has the biggest, brightest smile on her face that literally lights up the room. She's definitely well known throughout GPS as just being kind of that bright star that just shines as she walks down the hallway. Such a great role model for her friends. And she is the daughter of Justin and Stacy Lester, who are in the back there. And her little sister, Zayla, is also here. Zuri's goal is to go to college someday. She wants to win nationals in cheerleading. She would like to be a cheer coach someday. And she currently cheers for the NEO, is it Sassy Cats? Is that the name of your team? And she loves that. She also loves music. She plays the piano. And she loves her teacher, Mr. Mitzel, because he's funny. He is funny, I can attest to that. She loves Green Primary School as well because of all the nice teachers, including her teacher who's here, Mrs. Davis, in the back. She enjoyed her star student breakfast with her classmates. She loves cheerleading, running, playing outside, and playing with her sister, which her sister's right here. Hi, sweetie. You are a great big sister because she talked a lot. When I interviewed her today, she talked a lot about her sister, which says a lot about you. What a nice, kind little girl you are. As a matter of fact, right now, her and her mom are planning a 10-mile bike ride, which I thought was really awesome. Some interesting facts about Zuri is that she started kindergarten when she was 4. She just turned 8 on August 28th, and she's lived in 4 states, Michigan, Georgia, Colorado, and Ohio, but she says Ohio is her favorite, and I think we could all agree. Zuri says that the best advice she's ever received is from her mom, who I know is here somewhere. There she is. And Mom has told her that no matter what she does, to always try her best, and that that's something that she lives her life by. And I think we can all say that that's true about Zuri. This is what Mrs. Davis has to say about her, and I'm going to read this because this was sent to me, and I think it speaks volumes about the kind of child that Zuri is. But Mrs. Davis says, Zuri was picked for many reasons. She exemplifies what it means to follow the GPS BARC motto. And for those of you who don't know what the BARC motto is, that's our motto that we follow at GPS, which stands for behavior, attitude, responsibility, and kindness. And I see some kids shaking their head out in the audience, which is awesome. Zuri's behavior is always what it should be. She follows the rules and tries her best. She always has a positive attitude. She never gives up. She's responsible, does her homework, works very hard on her classwork, and is someone her teachers and peers can trust. Most importantly, Zuri has a kind heart. She invites kids to play that are on the buddy bench. She is sweet to every person she interacts with, and her classmates and teachers adore her. Congratulations, Zuri, from all of us at GPS. Great job.
All right. Well done, thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Booth, Green Intermediate School, Student of the Month.
Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to stand next to such a wonderful girl at Green Intermediate School. Ray Feynman is a 6th grader. She is on the teaching team of Mr. Mostoff, Mrs. Brooks, Mr. Germano, and Mrs. Sears, and she's here tonight with Anthony, her dad, and Sharon, her mom. Thanks for coming tonight. We are just so excited to announce her because she's got so many great qualities and so many interesting things that I want to share with you. First of all, she loves all subjects in school. She can't decide, but of course she had to. So she says science is at the top of her list, mainly because of experiments, and then also she loves to find out interesting things about things. Some of her hobbies include, outside of school, she's big into the Movie Maker program and loves to make movies. She loves drawings. She loves to do comics, cartoons. She also likes to draw, and she illustrates her own books. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that here in a second. Another activity she enjoys doing is hiking with the family. And she loves, again, to write her own stories, illustrate, and she actually has some of those that she's going to bring in and share with me. Her future plans and goals include that she would like to be an entomologist. And you guys are all, what is an entomologist? Yeah. I did that too. I said, entomologist, it's the study of insects is her goal in life. She loves bugs and collecting plastic bugs, but also she would like to get her doctorate in a science area and go on the exploring tour and try to discover something new. Now that's cool, huh? Yes. She also has a unique pet at home, and I'd like her to tell you, what is that pet?
Daisy the tarantula.
So Daisy the tarantula. Okay, that's very, very cool. Daisy the tarantula. And Daisy the tarantula, she said, is 8 years old. So something special about her, she says, in her words. Something nice about me is that every art teacher I've ever had said that I was very good at art, whether painting or drawing or polymer clay. I have many collections, and I am friendly and good at creating posters, drawings, designing backpacks, and being creative. Her teachers say this about her. Ray is the perfect choice for Student of the Month. She owns her own learning, she's always does her best, and goes above and beyond expectations. Ray is very considerate to her peers and respectful to all of her teachers. So we are proud to recognize Ray as our Student of the Month at Green Intermediate School.
Congratulations. And next up, we have Mr. Wells to share our Green Middle School Students of the Month. Student, I should say.
Good evening, everybody. Before I introduce our Student of the Month, I think the neat thing about this, looking at all the Students of the Month, is that these students have found a way to stand out immediately. You know, it's easy to say when we get to November, December, January, someone's been standing out, but for someone to stand out immediately is impressive, so congratulations to all of you who are Students of the Month. Our Student of the Month at the middle school is Reagan Doan. She is in Mrs. Davis's homeroom, and she's here with her mom and dad, John and Bonnie, and she has two siblings, Allison and Morgan, as well. When I asked Reagan about her interest, it was quick. It was soccer, soccer, soccer. We didn't get to the school part, but I'm okay with the soccer part. But she is clearly an avid soccer player. She competes locally as well as being part of the Canton United program as well. So she stays busy with that, and she loves the challenge of playing goalkeeper, and that's that high pressure. It all comes down on you, and to guard that big net, that's tough. So I give her kudos for that. She's looking forward to playing soccer at the high school as she moves on. And her future plans, she kind of said, are kind of ever-changing. She's waiting for that one thing that piques her interest and then continue with that. So she's a little bit unsure, and that's fine at this age. There's no problem with that. Here's what her teachers had to say about her. The team proudly nominates Reagan for Student of the Month. From what we've seen so far this school year, Reagan is presenting herself as a fine young lady. Her pleasant, positive attitude does not go unnoticed. She comes to school daily, eager to learn, and as she participates and contributes regularly in her classes. She works very well with her peers and is a wonderful addition to the math teams. She shows definite leadership potential and seems well respected by her classmates. We are so pleased to have Reagan on our team. So again, could you help me congratulate Reagan Doan as our Student of the Month at GMS?
All right, well done. And finally, we have Green High School Students of the Month this evening being presented by Mrs. Bruick.
Good evening. Is Nikki Stott here? No? Okay. She is the other Student of the Month. So I'm going to read her information first and make him stand awkwardly here and wait, because he's a high school student now and he can handle that. Actually, almost a college student. Nikki Stott is the daughter of Lisa and Bob Stott. She has two brothers, Bobby and Michael. Nikki is a member of the dance team, musical theater, select choir, National Honor Society, Key Club, and Science Club. Outside of school, she dances at Diana Durkin Dance Studio and works at Green Family Fun Zone. And next year, she hopes to attend Miami University, where she plans to double major in fashion corporate business and human capital management. Interesting. And finally, Matthew Hippich is the son of Larry and Missy Hippich. He has one sister, Jessica, who just graduated last year and is attending college. Matthew has been a three-sport athlete throughout high school. He's a member of the soccer team, the swim team, and the tennis team. Matthew is also a member of National Honor Society, and he is involved in the French Club and the Key Club. In his spare time, Matthew enjoys wakeboarding, barefoot skiing, and wake surfing. He always looks forward to spending time with family and friends. He plans to attend college after graduation, but is still undecided on his major. So congratulations to both Nikki and to Matthew for being Students of the Month at Green High School this month.
right, congratulations, all students of the month, and we'd be remiss if we didn't thank the parents, family, and friends for all their support to help them get to this point, and we expect great things to continue, so thank you, everybody. Next up, we have our recognition of Green Local School District retirees. Prior to this meeting, we had a get-together, and the names that are on this board over here, starting with Jane Meyer at the top. She taught for us for 38 years and just retired this past year. And then the list goes on down to all of those individuals that served in some time length. And the one thing I did want to share, so many of them came this evening, and seeing their faces just reminds you of all those years of service that they gave to families, Green Local Schools, and certainly the students. And I think it's a testament that so often when you're out in the community and you hear people talk about the difference that was made in their lives, especially when you're talking to some of our young adults, they point back to the teachers, the cooks, the custodians, those that built relationships. And this group we have here that we honored this evening, there's just some just top-of-the-world type people that certainly we are missing. They still keep in touch, and we're better off for that. But I just want to give a round of applause for all of those people that we were honoring this evening. So thank you. And next up, I'm going to ask Mr. Scott Ayton to come forward. He's going to be, yes. Everywhere the guy goes, he gets that kind of reaction. So with that, we are going to have him talk to us about the Technology Integration Showcase. I'll leave it over to you.
All right. So during the 2016-17 school year, classrooms across the district participated in the first ever Technology Integration Showcase contest. And this contest was kind of started as a result of all the work that actually occurred 2 summers ago across the district, where the tech team took many steps to increase the amount of technology available to staff and students. Each building received a Wi-Fi upgrade. There was greater access to Chromebooks per student and increased opportunity for professional development throughout the year last year. There are a lot of great things happening in the classrooms across the district, as I'm sure you're aware of, and this contest was an opportunity to showcase the things that were happening. So basically what we did is we created a rubric and asked the teachers to design a short video that would demonstrate how they were integrating technology in their classrooms. And just so you have an idea of what kind of the focus was, the project had to be something that was standards-based and a data-driven unit that that the students would participate in their classroom. It needed to represent best practice in education. It had to feature, of course, technology integration, and we used the SAMR model to kind of help them see how they could take what they do normally in class and just raise it at least one level. And then, of course, the video production quality of the final project was one final thing that the judges evaluated. We were very fortunate, and I'm thankful for the judges that took some time to judge the project, Mr. Lohmiller, Mr. Clendaniel, Mrs. McMahon, Mrs. Stoynoff, and we even brought in Mr. Eric Kurtz from Spark to be a part of judging the videos that the teachers created. I also wanted to recognize Pam Matiazzo for helping me put the contest together, and as also helping the teachers in the classrooms with the projects. We were also very fortunate to have Citizens Bank sponsor the contest, and we're very thankful for that, as they were able to provide $500 that we were able to kind of reward some of the winning projects. So the following teachers submitted projects in the contest: Doug Freilich from the high school, Nikki Marchik from the intermediate, Corey Potter from the high school, Trudy Zimmerman and Beth Giamatti from Greenwood, Ryan Flynn from Greenwood, Katrina Honkla from the high school, and Derek Angeloni from Greenwood. And then through their judging process, the judges came up with, and I'm going to actually ask them to stand, the first through third. First place, Mrs. Trudy Zimmerman and Beth Giamatti. Second place. Second place is Nicole Marchick. And third place, Mr. Ryan Flynn. So those teachers will be receiving the gift cards tomorrow, sometime during the day. But really, the real winners in all this, not just these teachers, but were all the students that got to participate in some really amazing projects. If you would like to watch actually all of the videos, there will be a feature on each of the district pages, and you can click on and watch the videos and see the amazing work, not only the winners, but the other projects that were also very well done. So that's the integration showcase. I also wanted to mention tonight, at the end of the school year last year, on June 5th through 9th, so the school year was over for the teachers, we had several teachers sign up to participate in a Google Boot Camp. And again, Pam Matiazzo and I ran the camp. It was a 5-day camp. Teachers came to the high school from 9 to 3 o'clock each day. And we designed a course that would help prepare them to take the Google Certified Educator Level 1 exam. And throughout the week, they learned the different G Suite products and how to use those in their classrooms. And then at the end of the week, they took the 3-hour exam that was created by Google. We had several staff members pass that exam, and so they are now official Level 1 certified educators according to Google. And I just wanted to recognize those staff members: Derek Angeloni, Kristen Canary, Courtney Denning, Megan Kohler, Kate Lobby, Carly Lowe, Dawn Stitt, and Kristen Young. And then Kristen Canary apparently didn't have enough Google over the summer. She went ahead and took the Level 2 exam, which is another 3-hour exam, just at the start of the school year, and she passed the Level 2 exam as well. So that was a lot of hard work, and they definitely deserve to be recognized for that. So,
Awesome. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. For those who don't want to stay for the remainder of the meeting, we'll give you a few minutes to collect your things, and you can make your way out through the back, and we'll pause here for just a moment to allow you to go back.
So I'm missing. I think you're right.
Probably hit the gavel
Run.
I see. Okay, that's the respect I get. I'm not even on the list. Wow, it's a cold room. Hot outside, but cold in here.
Want to keep it comfortable.
We lost Jim.
We should, you know what? We should have him sit in the front row.
As everybody finishes filing their way out, we'll move on with the meeting. Item 4, the approval of the agenda. I don't believe we have any addendum items to discuss, so a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen,
Second.
and thank you, Mrs. Finelli. Mrs. Snowberger?
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Finelli?
Yes.
Mr. Hurdlick?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We have no need for executive session at this time. Anybody in the audience who wants to comment on the agenda items or the agenda that was just passed, feel free to make yourself known and move towards the podium. And if we have none, we will continue on with item 7. The approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting of August 28th, 2017. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hurdlick. Mrs. Snowberger?
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mr. Hurdlick?
Yes.
Mrs. Finelli?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item 8, the financial report. The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the financial report and payment of bills as presented by the treasurer. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Finelli. And second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff. Mrs. Snowberger?
Mrs. Finelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Hurdlick?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item B, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the final appropriations as presented by the treasurer in the amount of $47,103,980.75. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley.
Second.
And thank you, Mrs. Finelli. Mrs. Snowberger, you want to comment on any of that, or?
This is actually just an annual item that we need to pass. It needs to be approved by October 1st by any Board of Education. If you remember, in June, we passed what's called temporary appropriations, which were 25% of last year's permanents. And so this year, you always have to do it by October 1st in order to pay your liabilities for the school district.
And this is the entire amount, not
The entire
an
amount.
additional to the 25%.
Oh, no, this is the entire amount.
Just check.
Yeah. It's big enough.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any questions? Mrs. Snowberger?
Mr. Hurdlick,
Yes.
Mrs. Finelli,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item C, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the following donations. Since they're donations, I'm just going to read them off. Just the corporations, the ExxonMobil Foundation, Thomas Handel Vision, Signature Mortgage Corporation, Barrington Carpet, Ken's Auto Service, Boggs Chiropractic, Spoonhauer Orthodontics, R Treats, that's Dairy Queen, I think, right? Yeah. LLC, Green Baseball Softball Federation, Lakes Heating and Air, Infinity of Akron, and the children's books from Mark and Kelly Ray Sayana, thank you. You knew I was going to do that. To Green Local Schools. A whole list of, obviously, of local businesses, mostly to the Bulldog Dash and some other, and to the Green Primary School. Do I have a motion to approve those donations?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hurdlick. Questions or comments? I think this, obviously, again, it's just the local community getting together and really supporting a lot of the things that we do. The Bulldog Dash is a big fundraiser that goes right back into the schools, and we certainly appreciate all of the generosity of those corporations that are listed and the people who participate in that. Mrs. Snowberger.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Hurdlick,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Vanelli.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item D, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the blanket purchase order limit at $50,000 per occurrence. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Finelli. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff. Jeff, you want to comment on that, or Edie? One of you two
Yeah, I
just
can.
kinda-
This is actually in a revised code. We've always had blanket purchase orders in the district, but now there's a code that you have to set a limit for the blankets. It doesn't have anything to do with bidding things out or things like that. It has to do with things that the district will purchase that maybe they're coming, but you don't know when. For an example is fuel for the buses or legal services. Any utilities are under this umbrella. You have on a utility bill, which isn't a great example, but the fuel one is where you have to fuel up on the buses, but you don't necessarily know a day, and it's not a specific one-time purchase. So if you're going to go to Office Depot and buy, a stapler, a pen, and a marker, that's a one-time thing, and you're buying it, and the employee gets approval ahead of time. But for fuel, they can't come to us every time and say, well, I'm going to need bus parts today. It just doesn't work that way. So the state auditor's office is now requiring districts, if they haven't, to set a limit for each purchase order that's in place. I was going to make it lower, but then actually what I went through a 3-year history, and the highest diesel fuel bill we had in 1 month was a little over $48,000. So I kind of made it, and I tried to give us a little cushion so I didn't have to come back next year and say, well, now I need 51. So that's the reason for the dollar amount at that point.
And it also kind of has to deal with terms of the vendors too, right? If I'm correct, the fuel people probably have a pretty short turnaround
It does,
terms
right.
that they have, just because it's a pretty slim margin.
And
that
what
they
we
have.
do, Mrs. Romine, she goes out and she actually prices out fuel from a couple places each time. And so what this does is it's basically called a multi-vendor, so we know we're buying fuel for the buses, it's a specific thing, but we can list different vendors and we can go out and get the best price, and they may be different week to week, and we can still pay it off that one bill. So,
And one of the other things too is that it's not, you guys still talk to the board in terms of, hey, of expenses that are coming that might be a little bit more than,
absolutely.
it's.
Right.
that-
Per board policy, yes.
Yeah.
Anything
there's-
over 25, yeah.
Right, still has that. It just gives you just gives you the more flexibility to make sure that you pay it on a more of a, like, not an
Correct.
emergency, but more of an immediate thing, depending on when our
Correct.
meetings are. Okay.
Right, so then, anything over 25 is automatically presented to the board for approval, and anything over 10 requires 3 quotes from 3 different local vendors.
Okay. Any other questions, or comments for Mrs. Snowberger?
Mrs. Finelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Hurdlick.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item E, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the establishment of the Rail Family Scholarship Fund and accept the donations of $4,450 from businesses and friends of the Rail family. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Finelli. Questions or comments? Jeff, I think you kind of mentioned this. Did you mention it last time? Edie, I'm sorry.
This was my email. So this was a scholarship that was set up for the Rail family, that it goes to graduating seniors that are going to be in the science field. There will be 2 $500 scholarships per year, and these were all made through the donations of the families. In case you don't know, they had lost 2 family members in pretty quick turnaround in the last 3 months, and so this was the way for the family to honor them and to set up what they felt was important to their family, which is the science field for them.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Ms. Newberger? You can call the roll, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was like, what did he say?
Oops.
Mrs. Stoynoff,
Yes.
Mrs. Finelli,
Yes.
Mr. Hurdlick,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you. Item number 9 under new business, the consent calendar. Note, items under the consent calendar are considered routine and being acted under one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the board votes unless a board member requests an item be clarified or even removed from this consent calendar for separate action. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hurdlick. Questions or comments?
Yeah, just a few comments. Obviously, there's, it's that time of the year where there's a lot of the supplementals and the athletics that are on here. But there is an item that is 7 under other E, which is the approval of the first reading of policy 5200 on the topic of attendance. And many people may have heard about House Bill 410. Earlier this school year, I sent out a letter talking about House Bill 410. It was the law that was passed that required days to be shifted to hours, and then in light of some issues with attendance in certain schools across the state, there were also expectations put into law. So I just wanted to kind of touch on a few of those. So one, Green used to have a policy that we practiced that if you were taking a child to an appointment and it was less than 2 hours, that would not impact your attendance. Well, with the passage of House Bill 410, now that no longer can be the case. So every minute that you're absent is a minute that you're absent. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that. It's just a way to keep track of time. So no longer can schools do that. So we're required, if I have my son takes an appointment for a half hour for a doctor's visit, that's perfectly fine. That's an excused absence. It's just 30 minutes that he wasn't there that needs to be tracked by the state. So with that, some other things came with letters are mandated to go out based on X amount of hours. And I'll use myself as an example. Even if my son's sick for the equivalent of 5 days, now it converts to hours, which is 32 and some change. If if I call off to the school and say Jeffrey had 5 doctor's appointments, the school's going to say, great, those are all excused. I still am now required to receive the letter from the state that says, so you know, Jeffrey has missed 32 hours of school. And the same thing for 10, same thing for 15. So it is a requirement regardless whether it's an excused absence or not. The only other thing that I wanted to touch on with the attendance is when the law was passed, all of the entities that deal with technology were kind of behind the 8 ball working to play catch up. So as we speak today, we still don't have the mechanisms to track hours through our technology, but they're working on it, and they're telling us in the very near future we will have that function and ability. So what I mean by that is Progress Book's a good example. By the time the first report card comes through, we're confident that we're going to be able to say, using again my own son as an example, that Jeffrey missed 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours of school, as opposed to the way prior to House Bill 410 it would have said 1 day or 1.5 days. So I think that pretty much covers it. I do know I've been getting a lot of questions. If my son is sick, you're telling me I need to bring him back within 24 hours. Absolutely not. Nothing changed with the ability to be a parent and make those decisions, what's best for your child. The only thing that's changed is we're having to track it via hours, and those letters have to come home. But if you're like me and you're responsible and you know your child was absent, when you get that letter in the mail that says your child's missed 32 some hours, you can put it in whatever mechanism for those type of handouts you want to utilize. I know which one I choose. And with that being said, I just wanted to touch on that topic. And if you do have questions out there, because it's new, it's different, please refer to the letter that I sent out. It's on the website also. And then if that doesn't answer your question and it's a case by case, because I get it, having 3 kids, there's always different things to consider, and you want information, please reach out to your building principals or assistant principals, and they'll be able to answer the questions that you may have. But in closing, this is the first reading. It makes us come into compliance with the law and touches on those topics that we mentioned, or that I just mentioned. So with that, Mrs. Bruick, was there anything that you felt maybe I missed or skipped over on that?
We've seen and heard a lot of buzz regarding the way that attendance is currently reported in Progress Book, parent access. So when a parent logs in to look at their students' grades, they also see a report of their child's attendance. And right now, again, as Mr. Miller indicated, the technology hasn't caught up with the law yet. So parents will still see a half a day absence or a full day absence. And that will change eventually. So bear with us as we get those updates made over the course of the next few weeks.
So, Kim, do we think that's so this will be retroactive to the beginning of the year? So at some point in time, they'll switch over from days to hours?
That's our expectation at this time.
Kind of seamlessly? Then?
Yes.
Will they still be able to indicate whether they were tardy, or is it just total minutes that are accumulated?
I believe that it now is a matter of how much time have you missed.
So just strictly minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's less than 30 minutes late, however, I believe that still may be considered tardy.
Okay.
But again, we're still kind of waiting for all of that to met itself out.
Yeah, and the one confusing thing, I think sometimes there's the actual law, House Bill 410, and the policy that reflects that. Obviously, as educators, we want students to be on time. So if a student's truant, there can still be discipline. This has nothing to do with that. It just now means that if your child is tardy 15 minutes, it's recorded now that they missed 15 minutes of school. And the discipline or consequences or anything is totally separate from this. It's just if your child misses time, it's recorded.
Is there any way maybe to put a frequently asked question tab under the building, maybe under the building tabs that, kind of give some of the highlights of the whole thing? Because I think it was based upon the ECOT charter school situation. I know you didn't mention that, but I think that's the basis for the whole thing, kind of like back in the Enron days of this is driving a lot of stuff and that they're trying to make sure that they can account for all the attendance and all the dollars that are associated with that. Is that correct?
Yeah, and attendance now coincides with how schools are funded. So Edie and I could speak for a while on that topic, but obviously if you're funded based on attendance, the state and everybody else wants to make sure that it's absolutely accurate. So the other thing, we have ongoing discussions right now, the idea of perfect attendance is going to look different moving forward. So right now, will there still be some students that come every single day and don't miss 1 minute of time? Yeah, there's going to be some kids that reach that amazing feat, but we're looking at another category, and what that label is, I'm not certain yet, but there's discussions about is it excellent attendance, and this would be the range, which gives the ability that you can still receive that honor and still get to the doctor for those appointments, because certainly we don't want to have kids missing instructional time, so or their after school, whatever they have. We want to make it convenient for families, and you're the parent, your kid, your child's responsible. I'd much rather have a student be taken out of school during study hall or a lunch period to go to an appointment than from something else that obviously would be considered to be math class or something that's critical to be there for. So I know it's confusing. It's a state mandate, and we're just doing our best to try to get those answers out there. And I think the frequently asked questions, really good one. We've been trying to collect those when we meet, and I think a lot of them are case by case, and then it's like, okay, yep, this is how we need to answer this one, and then we can get that out.
Anything else? Sorry. Mrs. Snowberger?
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Hurdlick?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Finelli?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item F, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the following resolution. Whereas in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 3313.9B and House Bill 487, the Green Local Schools declares its intent not to provide career technical education to students enrolled in grades 7 or 8 for the 2017-18 school year. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Finelli and Mrs. Stoynoff. Questions or comments?
Just real quickly, this was something that was on an agenda last year and the year prior. Obviously, the Ohio Revised Code requires us to have this resolution if we're not servicing our 7th and 8th graders. So at this point, we are not. I have worked closely with Dr. Ben Moore over at Porter Sykes Career Center about maybe the possibility in the future that something may fit that makes sense for our students. But at this point in time, based on everything we're looking at, obviously it's the recommendation for us to move forward, not providing this. The Career Center does a great job with our students that reach that junior and senior status, and then have a lot of different opportunities there. So at this point in time, we're not servicing those categories in our 7th and 8th grade building.
Okay, thanks. Mrs. Stoynoff, or Mrs. Snowberger, sorry.
Mrs. Finelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Hurdlick?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item G, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the agreement with the Background Investigation Bureau LLC for Secure Volunteer, a background screening and records collection system for school and district volunteers. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hurdlick.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Questions or comments?
Yeah, just real briefly, I've asked Mrs. Bruick just to give us a Cliff Note version of what this is. But basically, in a nutshell, anytime we have volunteers, which I know she's going to talk about the distinction between visitor and volunteer, but volunteers that are working directly with our kids, they have to have a background check. So this is a way that many schools are able to accomplish this at a reduced rate to the volunteer, and I will not steal any more thunder.
And steal all the thunder you want, sir. We do make a clear distinction between visitors and volunteers. Every year when parents complete their annual notifications and consents, as well as their emergency medical authorization updates, they do sign off on the visitors and volunteers policies that Green Local Schools has adhered to over the course of the last many years that I've been involved. The difference between a visitor and a volunteer is really in name. Visitor is someone who visits the building for a brief period of time but does not have any additional responsibility in the building, whereas volunteers tend to visit frequently the building, and they provide some sort of volunteer service to the district, whether it's a Reading Buddies program, or they make photocopies for teachers. They may work on math games or math skills with students in the hallway, but these are people who are volunteering their time on a regular basis for the betterment of our school district and for to assist our students and our staff members. In years past, we've asked that the volunteers all go through an orientation or training of sorts, and they also have been asked to sign a consent that they understand what it means to be a volunteer in our school district, that they will not share confidential student information that they may overhear, and that they will report any unusual circumstances that they encounter to the building principal. We've seen an increase in the number of concerning issues with volunteers in schools in general, not in Green local schools to this point, but in the greater Northeast Ohio area. I have heard about some concerning situations with volunteers, and it's getting school districts into trouble because those volunteers are not supervised. They haven't signed any kind of waiver, and in most cases they have not been subjected to a background check of any kind. Now, all of our staff members must be background checked. That is an Ohio Revised Code requirement. Those folks have to be background checked every 5 years, and it is a costly proposal. Every 5 years, it can be anywhere from $40 to $60 for a staff member to have a background check. We would prefer not to have our volunteers fork over $60 or so every year so that they can come into our school buildings as volunteers. So as a solution to that, and to protect our precious, precious kids as well as our brand, we believe it's important to have some kind of screening occur. And to that end, we have contracted, hopefully, with an organization called Background Investigation Bureau. They do a background check for a nominal fee. The volunteer actually pays that fee, and then if the background check comes back clean and there are no offenses that would be disqualifying offenses for a staff member or a volunteer, then we approve that individual to be a volunteer. The Background Investigation Bureau sends that individual an identification badge, and then that person is cleared to volunteer in our school district in any of our buildings.
That's a yearly renewal that they'd have to go through each year?
Yes, it's at our discretion how frequently we want them to go through the renewal process. However, the best practice that we have been advised of, both by Background Investigation Bureau and by some of the other school districts in the area that use the service, is that this screening be conducted on an annual basis. If the individual were background checked, and they were associated with Green Local Schools as a volunteer, the state of Ohio would flag an individual every time there's a conviction of some kind. That doesn't happen with the Background Investigation Bureau.
Are there neighboring districts that use
Yes,
this service?
there are.
Okay.
In particular, Brecksville Broadview Heights. They have been using this particular service for a few years now, and they speak very highly of it. And they also indicate that there has been 1 or 2 situations in the past 3 years where they've had to say no thank you to a volunteer.
So is this going through BCI&I?
No. It's actually, BCI&I only identifies convictions. It does not involve any kind of ongoing litigation that an individual might be involved with. This Background Investigation Bureau Secure Volunteer Program identifies any pending litigation that could be out there.
I know BCI&I, their turnaround was not very good.
Correct. This takes about 36 hours,
Oh, that's excellent.
sometimes 48.
Still. I mean, we're talking months.
Right.
Kim, will this pick up? I remember getting my teaching license. It didn't apply to me, but it did apply to a friend because she had lived out of state. So this is gonna.
It's a nationwide
Okay.
search. Mhm.
Thanks.
We will still be asking all of the volunteers who go through the training program at the beginning of the school year, which will be occurring the next couple of days, actually, at Greenwood in the primary school, to sign the promise to comply with our volunteer policy. However, we believe this added layer of security will protect our children even further and protect us as a district.
And if we pass this tonight, that goes into effect this year?
There is still some setup that needs to occur. I've been working behind the scenes with the organization, but there's only so far I was willing to go without board approval. So my hope is that we will have it up and running by the beginning of next week. Okay. And there will be a link on our website where people can go, sign up, pay. Everything is electronic. And then the results are sent directly to my office. I review them, and I either approve or deny. In most cases, I'm guessing we'll be approving them.
Can the teachers go through this later? Can the teachers go through this organization also?
To be background checked?
Yes.
No, Ohio Revised Code stipulates that they have to have a background check, an FBI background check every 5 years, as long as they've lived in the state of Ohio for continuously during that time period. Same thing with drivers. Any employee of our district actually has to be background checked by upon hiring by FBI and BCI. FBI, of course, is federal. BCI is state. And then after every subsequent 5 years, if they continue to work and live in the state of Ohio, they only have to repeat the FBI, the federal background check.
Thanks, Kim. Mrs. Snowberger.
Mr. Hurdlick,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mrs. Spinelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item H, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the solicitation of bids for surface treatments, repair, replacement, and redesign of high school, middle school, and intermediate school parking lots and thoroughfares. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Spinelli,
Second?
and thank you, Mr. Hurdlick. Questions or comments?
Yeah, so we have a multi-year plan for our surfaces, and obviously some of those things have taken place in the past few years. This is now moving forward the next step to see what the bids are, see what the actual costs are and recommendations, so we know what to come back to the Board of Education with in terms of recommendations. Obviously, that would be based on what comes out from this action. So certainly we're examining that high school, middle school, and intermediate school parking lots, and in some cases it may come back that it's a recommendation to do a surface treatment this year and wait a year, and then in other cases we'll get different information. So this just gives us the ability to move forward and get real numbers, real timelines, and facts that we can obviously bring back at a later date.
Thanks. Mrs. Snowberger?
Mrs. Spinelli,
Yes.
Mr. Hurdlick,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Anybody with comments on the board back there? If not, if anybody wants to make any comments, you're certainly welcome to come up. And moving forward, we'll go with board accommodations. Mrs. Stoynoff, how about we start with you this evening?
Okay. I had the opportunity to attend the ice cream social that council put on at the end of August, and saw several individuals, residents of the city, receive the silver coin that they were presented for completing the silver coin challenge, which was basically a matrix where they could pick several things, and upon completing that, then turn in for their coin. So that was very nice. Also had the opportunity to be at the First Responders Memorial dedication on 9/11, which was a beautifully done ceremony. And if you haven't been to see our new First Responders Memorial, which is an addition to our Veterans Memorial there on Steese Road, I would highly recommend that you take a few minutes to stop by and see, because it really did turn out beautiful there. And that was, I guess, preceded, there was a First Responders Night football game on the 9th, and I have to give a huge thank you to Julie McMahon, who organized what was an exceptional evening, and our partners, Blind & Sons, for donating T-shirts and some other things that we passed out to the veterans. And we had around, I don't know, do we have an accurate count on that, Julie? Would we say 50? Would that be?
Yeah, it was actually, you count like all our fire and, but it ended up being by the end of the night close to 150.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
the capitals,
Okay, good. So I was off by quite a few there. 150 first responders, including members of the Green Fire Department and the Summit County Sheriffs, and then veterans also that were out on the field. It was really a special night because Sergeant, give me his name again, Julie, from Uniontown. Sergeant White, who some of you may know him as one of the officer in Uniontown who was shot several months ago when responding to a domestic violence situation there, was able and well enough to join us and go out onto the field and be recognized. He was also there for the first responders dedication. So thank you to Julie, and of course, as always, thank you to all our veterans and first responders. Also wanted to just acknowledge, as Mr. Miller had, the retirees that are on the list. Those combined years of service there are something spectacular. And while they're all wonderful, you know, I had the privilege of Noah having Jane Meyer as a teacher, and she was wonderful. She was really one of the most exceptional teachers that I've had the pleasure of working with. And I have to give a special thank you to Mrs. Spate, as we used to call her Mama Spate, because I knew her growing up. Her son and I were very good friends. So congratulations to everyone, and then just a couple there that are special to my heart. As Mr. Ayton mentioned, I did have the privilege of judging the Technology Integration Showcase. And I think I talked about this a little bit before, so I'll keep it brief, but really some amazing things that show us exactly how much our technology is paying off. And the thing that is important to me is seeing technology used not just as, you know, hey, we've got this cool piece of technology, let's do something with it, but really seeing teachers threading that technology in a way that supports and enhances learning, not just bells and whistles. So there were some really great projects. And then I'll just wrap up by saying thank you for the donations, obviously, that were listed there from many of our local businesses, and a little bit of a promo here for our first family pig roast in our 20th, I believe, community homecoming rally that's going to be this Thursday, the 28th. At the stadium, weather permitting. If the weather is inclement, we will be over at the high school. You will have the opportunity starting at 6:30 for pork, turkey sandwiches, all the fixings, different sides there. Sandwiches will be $5. All the sides will be $1. I see macaroni and cheese and baked beans and all kinds of good stuff. So you want to make sure that you get there early. And then following at 7:30 will be the homecoming rally. So I look forward to seeing everyone there.
Just to clarify, that's pork and turkey, not
Yes.
pork turkey.
Yes, pork and, sorry, did I? But see, there is no and here, and I
Okay.
was kind of reading along. So yes, pork and turkey sandwiches and all the fixings.
Thank you.
I believe it's fix-ins. There's no G.
Oh, I'm
Start with
sorry.
pulled pork in the southern states.
Very true.
It's the English teacher in me, sorry.
Mrs. Spinelli.
Hard time. It's wonderful to see so many students with parental support working throughout the summer on their reading and math skills. Special recognition to the intermediate school and the Green Middle School students who completed their summer reading challenge. They were treated to a pizza party, and our Green primary students completed summer Smash Math Facts, were able to enjoy snow cones. And I think these summer programs are so worth it. I think they're a wonderful program. Also, the annual bus evacuation and training for our younger students went off without a hitch. Special thanks to our bus transportation team and the principals working together to make it all happen and placing emphasis on safety first for our little ones. And I'd like to compliment on Claire Holdren, the 6th grader at Green Intermediate School, for sharing her beautiful voice with the city at the dedication of the first responders portion at the Veterans Memorial Park. And also, thanks to all of our retirees. I know most of them very, very well. And It's sad to see him go.
Thank you, Mrs. Finelli. Mr. Hurdley.
Thanks, Bob. It's good to see that we picked up right where we left off at the end of last school year with our Students of the Month. Another great group coming through tonight, so congratulations to our Students of the Month. Also like to thank all of our retirees once again. Obviously, we thanked them as they were retiring, but it was nice seeing a few of them stop in tonight for a little reception. They look very relaxed and happy, so I think they're all enjoying their retirement so far, so congratulations to them. Mrs. Stoynoff did mention with the homecoming week and the pep rally coming up, so it was a great game Friday night, knocking off Glen Oak. That was a nice comeback, a good victory for our guys. So hopefully we can build on that with homecoming week coming up and keep that winning going there. Our electric signs, they look good. I'm sure everyone's noticed them driving around town. They stand out really nice. So hopefully we utilize those very well. I passed several at other schools and other districts that say the same message for a month or two. So obviously the idea behind the signs is to get all the information out to our community of what's going on in our schools. So I'm sure we will utilize those very well. And it'd be a good communication tool for us to get the information out to our community. A few events coming up. Our musicals and choirs are starting. We have the Green High School Choir Concert will be Thursday, October 19th at 7:30, and then our middle school will have their musical on Saturday, October 14th, both at the Green High School Auditorium. We did mention the Bulldog Dash, all the donations we received by our generous businesses in the area. That is October 1st. Still time to sign up and participate. Once again, all that money goes to our Greenwood and primary schools. Do we have a dedicated purpose yet? Or is it still? For the donations? Looking at just technology improvements and programs to help the
Okay. Electronic sign training.
Electronic sign training. Yeah. Any camping trips or haircuts? What do we have a goal today?
Marcino and I will be slimed.
Slimed. I like. Well then. Very good. So we need to get those donations in because that will be an entertaining. Do the kids get to do the sliming?
I'm not sure. I'm sure they probably will have a hand in it.
All right. Look forward to that. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurdley. Mr. Cohen.
I think I heard Bob Campbell volunteering to also be slimed. I don't know. I thought I heard him saying that to Mark. I think it was earlier.
I believe that's exactly what he said.
Okay.
Oh, I think I'm going to be out of time.
Another successful Kick for the Cure event was held on Saturday, September 16th. This year, finally, it didn't rain on us, which was nice. The attendance was steady throughout, and I think people had a really great time. The reveal for the amount of funds that was raised for Kick for the Cure will be taking place at the Community Homecoming Rally, which Katie has already talked about, where they're going to be serving pork and turkey sandwiches, and maybe even pork turkey sandwiches. Who knows? Maybe we can ask them to slap them together. That's right. That's always kind of a neat thing when they reveal the amount, because the volunteers do a great job putting it together, and it always amazes me how much money they raise. Congratulations to 2 Green High School students being named Athletes of the Week. Lainey Stetz, girls soccer player, and Mackenzie Cavalier for tennis. Also, congratulations to the 8th grade band, who, if you attended the football game on Friday, you saw them performing with the Green High School band. It was really, really neat. They did a fantastic job. They just stepped right in there, and it was pretty neat. And also the GHS band followed up with a really great show at Cedar Point the next day on a tremendously hot day. And it was hot enough, but imagine being in those band uniforms. And as Mark mentioned, Green Middle School is going to be hosting its Green Middle School is going to be hosting its musical on Saturday, October 14th. 2 shows are going to take place on that Saturday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. at the GHS Auditorium. Come see it. It's Shrek Jr. I hope a lot of the community brings a lot of people and their kids. It should be a great show. Really looking forward to it. It's always really neat seeing the 7th and 8th graders and the talent that in just a couple of years is going to be up on that high school stage as high school students, and it's really kind of neat. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Just to finish up, Green Schools Foundation is still in their membership drive, I believe.
Still in the membership drive?
Hot and heavy there. Just kudos to Mr. Herdlick about putting on a great event there at Mayfair on the outing a couple of weeks ago. I know it was a lot of hard work, and it certainly paid off. A lot of very positive comments about that throughout the afternoon and through the evening. I had the pleasure of taking part in one of the packings for the Blessing in a Backpack, and it would be an understatement to say I was kind of blown away, not only by what Jennifer Doerr and her group has been able to accomplish in start of their 6th year, but also the participation that you get from so many different community people that are there, from retirees to administrators to staff to I think the transportation team has people there. FedEx. I would go through. I think it seems like everybody in Green has a little piece in that, from the packing to the distribution and everything else. And I think when I told my wife, I think now for the 4th time about that story, and she kind of reminded me I've already told her, but I'm getting older, so that's okay. And plus, it's a pretty awesome story, and it's truly it's a mind-blowing thing, and it's one of those things that you don't see going on behind the scenes, but you realize what an important function that provides for our kids, and it's just it truly is a blessing, and it was probably I think more a blessing for me to be part of that than anything else. So I just wanted to pass that along. And also one of the things that I don't think I've ever heard before, and that's to commend our kids at the way they've been acting at the football games here at home. I know it's been just a couple of games, but before, I think that you always saw the melee that occurred up there right around the pass gate and everything else. And I think that Eric Musey and the administrators and the administration kind of put their heads together to kind of figure out, hey, we need to do something to kind of alleviate this and still have the kids have fun and want to be there on a Friday night, and the parents to feel that they're safe, either having their kids there or the other side of it walking in, that you're safe coming through the kid zone, so to speak. And it's really been a noticeable change, a noticeable improvement. And I just wanted to make sure that there was a public comment about that, because I think our kids are enjoying themselves, and I think it's like anything else. They're just looking for a place to get together and have a lot of fun. So why not make it a great event at the football game? So tip of the cap to Eric and his crew for getting that done. We do have executive session this evening for personnel. We do not anticipate any action to be taken afterwards. So do I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Finelli. Mrs. Snowberger?
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mrs. Finelli?
Yes.
Mr. Herdlick?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.